Yeah, let's fucking go then. All right, baby.
That's
We've been out of it. We've been out. Well, we're all back, right? Because we didn't record last
But
week.
you're more
No,
back.
we haven't been out of it. We just took a hiatus.
Exactly.
We went on hiatus. That sounds like you did it on purpose.
Yeah, we went on
I prefer sabbatical.
A sabbatical.
Sounds a little
sounds
Jewy.
more like Sabbath, like
sounds a little
Jewy. Savage.
Yeah.
Savage.
So we went on a hiatus. Now we're fucking back. So, Cameron, you wanted to say something before we?
Oh, we're about to drop the intro, but before we do, I just want to put a little disclaimer that you may experience slight nausea, vertigo, or ear bleeding. All right,
or flu-like symptoms. Cue it.
Drop it.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to Self-Perfected.
Boom.
And we're back. Now you might want to immediately call 911 or a doctor.
Nice.
So
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey.
So you're saying they like the warning? That's basically it. Oh, here it comes.
What if we did it again?
Round two.
Or like next time we'll just be like, okay, in a moment we're gonna drop the intro, and then it just goes.
That'd be great. Well, there's so much we can discuss, but I'm curious, Cam, you were saying you got back into your China research. I mean, can't just leave me hanging like that.
Well, I haven't really done anything yet. I just
He started getting the books again.
well, I just haven't been reading a lot of nonfiction lately. We've been more focused on like being in reality than reading a lot. Of just reading like fiction at night. And now I've been getting more books and stuff. I got like 40 books from Amazon coming, just like this long queue just coming in. But I found some really cool ones about like the election and also Trump and stuff. And there was this guy on Timcast. I just saw him. I was just watching. I sent you guys a clip. And he was an insider in Trump's administration, and he had written books on China, which is why Trump had him in there. And so I just ordered all of his books. That looks pretty cool. So hey, just because Christmas
Chinese
is here,
informants.
Thanksgiving, everyone's having a great time, holidays and stuff, that doesn't mean suddenly the world is just like fine. You know what I mean? It's like you think like, oh, Christmas time's here, so everything's happy now. It's like you see, it's like a constant hypnosis
based
trick.
off like the social media climate, isn't it? It's like,
Well, yeah,
everyone's
but
posting happy, good stuff.
Well, have you ever read that book, The Creature of Jekyll Island, where they explain how they started the Federal Reserve, and it was on Christmas Eve that they passed that final bill or whatever it was that put it in place, right? So that it's not like a recent thing. It's like they know, the people who are running the world know that there's a certain spell that gets put on everyone around this time of the year. Like, oh, family, fun, yeah, Dude, and then grab more.
Also, this was a point that I just caught on like that little clip that I was watching. This point about, it's Black Friday, or it was Black Friday, and then you have like the Cyber Monday and all that stuff where it's like everyone's buying all this stuff.
Whoa, hang on. Is the Black Friday? Come on, is no one up in arms about that? Like, really?
True.
I am.
You know why
upset.
they're not? This is why it's called Black Friday. Do you guys know? Do you know why it's called Black Friday?
I know what you're gonna say, dude. It's exactly what I was gonna say.
I don't know what you're gonna say, but I'm ready for it. Let's go.
It's the one day that some people are allowed to riot in the stores.
Exactly what I was gonna say.
Fuck, that was good.
No,
They can finally
That
afford
makes more sense.
It's when a bunch of companies like go into black or whatever on like retail, right? Isn't that right? What it is?
Yeah.
I think.
I was
But-
actually
They
wondering.
go negative all year.
But what's interesting, think about it. That's a positive connotation of the word black.
Yeah.
If I was going to
The
be anybody to be
one-
upset, it'd be like the Native Americans being like, well, why isn't the red bad? So anyways, but this guy was making this really cool point about everyone's going and shopping on all this Black Friday and all this stuff. And like, he made this point. He said the trade deficit in the US, the amount is roughly the what is it? The budget for the Chinese like military, the public, the PLA or whatever it's called. So like literally when you go and you're in Christmas mode and buying all that shit, you're literally funding the fucking Chinese military.
That's awesome.
Like, think about that, right? That's like when they make their budget and they're like, oh, we can buy another missile.
Stupid.
Pretty soon it's going to be Santa Claus. Instead of Santa Claus riding around on a sleigh, it's going to be like some Chinese general riding around on a hypersonic jet with like hypersonic nuclear missiles, delivering not coal, but nuclear fallout.
I was talking with someone yesterday, and I went to this meetup. There's a bunch of like crypto guys, and it was so interesting.
Sounds so gay.
Yes. There's a lot of crypto guys. Anyway, you know what's interesting about crypto people is like they're well, some of them are really techie, and so they don't come off as people like who are very personable or like really gregarious. I'll say it that way, you know. But what was cool was there was this conversation being brought up of like, do you know how much of our US dollar was printed last year? Like 20%, right? Of the US dollar was printed last year. So is it any surprise that Thanksgiving and all the things are 20% more than they were last year, right? And they're saying, they were making this point of like, they're trying to say inflation is only 4%, yet everything cost 20% more.
Yeah.
And we printed 20% more dollars last year. Can you do the math? You know? And so just you bringing up that point about like China, like all of our deficit basically funds their military. It's the same kind of point there. Yeah.
The crypto guys, they've got it figured out.
They figured it out. They're like,
what I've never understood though is how does crypto solve the problem?
it doesn't.
Because then, everyone will realize that we've just been in this centralized monetary system, and this is
But how does everyone putting their money in crypto, which you can't really practically use right now?
No, because we will be able to use it in the future, Cameron.
Yeah, you'll be able
Trust
to
the
put
plan.
it. Okay, think about that. How does your crypto stop you from having to get a vaccine to go to your job?
Because I'm a crypto millionaire, I don't need a job, Cameron.
Yeah, exactly. So everyone can be a crypto millionaire. So no one has to
Yeah.
have any jobs.
Mhm.
And I'm not arguing people should have jobs, but how does it actually solve the problem? You see what I mean?
Right.
Like,
No,
what is
it
the
doesn't
actual,
solve the problem.
like, and here's the bigger point, which the crypto boys and the crypto people don't understand. It's like, to become a crypto millionaire, you do not have to change. And I've heard people say, oh, you have to change because you have to study the economics and all stuff. That's like saying you have to change in order to understand math. No, you don't. You just have to learn the fucking vocabulary. That's not changing. That's not changing who you are. That's not changing what you're willing to do and go past limitations and so forth. Yeah, maybe there's some fears and things you have to confront because you have to like be constantly in fear that the IRS is going to come fucking take all your money or something. But other than that, like, what are you actually doing? Like, think about this. Okay, let's just segue into what we're doing, all right? Because this is the solution. It's not to say you can't do some crypto, I guess. I don't do any of that stuff because I know it's not the solution. Like everything I do is within what we're doing because like I'm all in. I know that if we don't succeed, then none of that shit matters. Because here's the problem. How do you convince the masses? How do you re-educate the masses? How does going and telling Susie Brown, who's working 3 jobs at Walmart and feeding 5 kids, how does helping her get a crypto wallet help her fucking stabilize herself and educate her children effectively?
Doesn't. It's literally the same lottery mentality. So
Why does she have 5 kids with no husband?
Because her crypto was not properly invested.
Yeah, she couldn't get access to her crypto wallet.
That's
Exactly.
it. That's it.
That's why her dad was an alcoholic, because he couldn't get access to his damn crypto wallet. And it's like, look, I understand money is at the root of all these points, but it's still trying to save people. It's still trying to have like a savior instead of supporting each person to individually change. That's everything we're doing is about that point. It's about the individual changing. And then, yes, there will be points where we change systems, and perhaps crypto could be a part of that point. But at the end of the day, what's the major benefit is just that what the government can't control what you do with your money, which is cool. But that doesn't explain why there's a government. As long as there's a government that the purpose of it is to control us, the crypto is not a solution.
Well, and I think another key part of it, at least with a lot of the people that I talk to, is they still don't fucking understand how to make money. And crypto's this shiny thing where they see a few people apparently make a lot of money with it, apparently. And then that they want to ride that bandwagon. And then they get all into the vocabulary of it. And it's this cool culture. And, oh, I went to a crypto conference and now there's these NFTs and it's so sexy. And in reality, these people still don't know how to put together, basic, positive cash flow for themselves.
Oh, they're not emotionally unstable. So it doesn't change any of that
drinking
stuff.
and smoking weed. And so it's this total delusion. And now Metaverse coming in. So it's going to be even more enticing, right? But in reality, it's like, do you want to be here in reality and be effective in this system that we're currently in and have a great life and have a family and have property, right? And really affect change? Or you want to just, jack off in the metaverse?
At the end of the day, there may be those who are in crypto who are like, yeah, I actually want to make a difference. The problem is they just need to work with what we're doing. You can still do their crypto stuff. I don't care about that. It's not like I'm saying you can't do that stuff. But if you're not doing what we're doing, then you're not supporting real change. The bigger problem is you have the people who get into it, don't know what the fuck they're doing, and they're just thinking it's some magic like lottery ticket. But they're not having to change accordingly. They're not becoming the person that can stand and support a new system. That's the real issue.
That's the whole thing with, the tech people being able to make all this money. It's that movie. I haven't seen it, but I had the VHS of it and never watched it, but Revenge of the Nerds. It's a concept. Revenge of the Nerds. This is one of those movies, right? Where it's the nerds, they get their revenge. You get the point, right? But the problem with that is you get these Mark Zuckerbergs. For example,
Did you say Merk Zuckerberg?
The Merk Zuckerberg. You get these Mark Zuckerbergs, right?
I like Merk. That's his actual name is Merk Zuckerberg. Like he literally owns Merk.
Work well together, yeah. It's like you accumulate all this power. For example, this is like the crypto dream, right? You accumulate all this money. The real crypto dream is to accumulate all this money and then like live off grid or just be super rich, all this stuff. But it's like, if like Drake was saying, it's like a lot of these people don't have any communication skills.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, that's actually the thing that would make you happy, being able to build relationships and things like that. You're the crypto, and so many people do this in so many different things. For me, it was like a soccer addiction. It was like, because my life is not working, I'm going to get really good at this thing. And this is going to be my significance and all that stuff that people are going to be like, whoa, you're so cool, rather than actually fixing the problems in my life. Right. So like Cameron said, dabble, do your thing, but it's more so about what's the 95% of your life. If the 95% of your life is, dude, all I have to do is focus on crypto and get every dollar I get, I put it in crypto, and then that's going to save me. That's the fucking problem. Versus understanding, oh, I have to like change my purpose of why I'm here. And if I make money in crypto, cool, that will support my purpose.
Right.
It's not your purpose is crypto.
That's
it's not your purpose is play soccer. Right. It's not your purposes. Right?
So this is something I was chatting with this guy. He got Techno Tutor like I don't know, 3 weeks ago. And so, but he was coming from that world of crypto, NFTs. He's like all excited about the metaverse, but he saw, hey, I gotta, actually understand reality more.
Mitch, real quick, when you say metaverse, like, are you talking about like the Facebook meta or just like?
Yeah, Facebook's meta thing.
Okay.
Right.
Oh yeah, because Cameron, you just shared this link about like this block of land in the metaverse got sold for like 2.4 million or something like that, or
yeah.
20.
And
okay.
And so I helped because now this guy has TechnoTutor, so he's able to actually start to process more of what I'm saying. So the other day I asked him, I was like, dude, so how deep do you want to go? Because right now, like, if you want to stay on the surface, we can stay on the surface, but how deep do you want to go? He's like, bro, I want to go deep. Like, tell me what's up. I'm like, okay. So your obsession with this metaverse thing, you realize that's literally what's going to turn into the Matrix, because I don't think you understand this yet, but they're talking about.
You're so right. You're
It's
100% right.
literally the precursor to the Matrix. Like,
Yeah.
how the fuck do people not see that?
Yeah. And just for anyone listening who doesn't see this, right? They're going to have wearable technology. They already do. They have implantable technology, Neuralink, things like that. And that's going to be connected inside you. Then they hook you up to this VR set. So now all you can see is this metaverse, right? And people are going to do this. They're already doing this out of their own volition. Like, people are like, yes, sign me up. I want this. Reality at that point, you can't distinguish between, okay, am I, like, you can't distinguish between, okay, am I here on Earth or am I in this, thing that's going to look so hyper real, you can't tell the difference.
So like, you're saying you'll be wearing it all the time.
Well, look at it, right? It's like,
I hadn't really thought about that.
VR headsets, they're big and clunky. So what they did is like, oh, this is too big and clunky, and you're in a virtual world. Let's go to augmented reality, not virtual augmented, right?
Yeah.
So you have the Google glasses.
Yeah.
But those are still something you have to put on and take off. Wouldn't it be so exciting when you can just
Yeah. And
It'll
that's just
be
a matter of
contact.
reducing the technology to the point where
to the point where it's merged. But
it's all
then,
implantable.
right, like, think about this, then you build up such a life in in characters and ego in this metaverse that's not actually real, then that becomes who you think you are. But then guess what? Your body is then being used to track your dopamine and your body heat and all that stuff to then mine cryptocurrency for Microsoft and all these other corporations, like we talked about in episode 48. And then you are literally even more just a little battery for the whole system. And you think you're experiencing this awesome bliss when, guess what? You're in this nice little censored box. Because if you try to speak out, then guess who has full control of censorship? You thought Facebook was bad now? Getting that little label under your posts about what vaccines are proven to be safe and effective, or misinformation. Now I'm starting to see them on climate. So watch that.
Dude,
climate lockdowns are next. Right?
that blew my fucking mind, Mitchell.
Oh, dude, we've been talking about climate lockdowns.
I know, but
Of course it's gonna happen.
It's here, right? And for those of you who don't know, just real quick, there was a post that Mitchell, he shared a picture for us. There's a post, and underneath it, like, okay, there was a video that I shared of us at Thanksgiving. And I think it's because, I'm just kind of going around. It's Mitchell like expressing something, and then it's like David Diaz, he's like, get your vaccine. And it just kept going. I think that's
he was mentioning vaccines in the video.
Yeah, if you listen to it, you'll just hear
like they were talking about something.
Yeah, exactly. That's it.
Oh.
And so at the bottom, it got a label of, check this information resource center. For
So
most up to date.
it just picked up on him saying that in the video.
It's fucking
That's
crazy.
insane.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
So and then it gave that informational label of go here for like the accurate information on COVID. And then Mitch, Cameron shared that. Then Mitch was like, yeah, they're even doing it for climate now. And everyone was like, what are you talking about, dude? Like, the weather, like, what are you talking about? And then he posts this picture, and it's a post, and at the bottom of it, it says, see how the average temperature of your area is changing. And then it says, see climate science info or something like that.
No, they use the word expert again,
Like
obviously,
okay.
right? They're trying to be the authority in this. And so if you think that is like, whoa, why is Facebook like so pushing what I'm seeing? Imagine that now in a metaverse where they control everything, including the amount of dopamine that gets released in your brain because you were willing to put in the Neuralink or just be addicted to their technology.
Including, like, if you're not supposed to see something, just blurring it out, because they can control what you see, literally.
Yeah, remember Black Mirror?
Yeah.
You guys remember that episode? It's like, for those
Mitch
of you who don't know,
I have a virgin mind, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Still hasn't seen Black Mirror. Holy shit, man.
Black Mirror?
Every episode.
Are we living in it anyway?
Yeah, Black Mirror is like a
Just walk out your front
documentary
door,
from the future.
I didn't watch the whole Metaverse presentation or meta thing, but apparently they like acted out like or redid some Black Mirror like episode in it or something.
What the fuck?
Like I don't know, because I just heard someone mention it, but they said, yeah, they even fucking like did a whole Black Mirror reference in their presentation or whatever. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Well, didn't we talk about this on one of the last podcasts where now all that stuff has just been turned into entertainment and people can't actually process it? So they're just like, oh my God, it was like Black Mirror. Okay. On just back to the metaverse. It's like we can't even see it. And people are so stupid that they can't even discuss it. So then you go into one of the two extremes of like, okay, well, whatever. I'm just going to go back into, having fun. Or you go into the extreme of like, well, I'm not going to use it then. And I'm getting off Facebook. Whereas what we're offering is you get the best for all balance, the equilibrium in between, where you can hang out in the metaverse if you need to. You can talk to anybody in the real world if you need to. And then you start to direct the systems.
Dude, does
Like
that mean we have
that's-
to take over the metaverse too?
Of course, bro. We got to make the metaverse best for all. I
Oh.
put that shit in my TT.
Oh, shit.
Think about this, though. Think about this.
Oh fuck! Are we gonna literally have to be like in this world, and we're like going into the metaverse, and we're like waking
Yes.
people up, like
we're
guys,
like
come on,
on a
can we
ship.
just,
Well,
like,
to be dressed in leather and
let's-
glasses. Yeah.
Dude,
Really
I
cool
definitely want to
trench
wear a
coats.
trench coat.
Yeah.
We already have some of the guns, so that's good.
Oh, I know what hat I'm gonna wear.
Okay. Think about this too, right? Just when you thought you understood what was going on, now here's something you won't be able to unsee, right? And you know how people are starting to put that little ring box on their door because it's like their doorbell,
Yeah.
right? And then there's even, I stayed at some Airbnbs where they literally use an app on your phone to lock or unlock the door
Yeah.
to the point where it's no longer mechanical. Like you have to have the app. Well,
Oh,
Oh, you can't even physically like do it.
yeah. So one,
What the
imagine
fuck?
if the power went down or you couldn't charge your phone. How the fuck are you going to lock or unlock your door?
Mhm.
Red flag right there.
Oh.
Part two, now Ring is able to monitor. They basically have millions of cameras around now, as well as that is going to be used to now dictate, okay, are you able to go inside or outside today?
Are you able
Right?
to leave out? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You have a
Because-
temper. You have a fever.
Yeah. Or you're emitting too much carbon and you're adding to the fever of the
Contributing
planet.
to the average temperature of your area is too high.
Right.
So it's like, what if you
that-
just had tacos last night? Now you're just like farting a bunch, and they're like, "Oh, can't leave your house," and you're like suffocating in there.
Too much carbon.
you can't even open your window?
Too much methane.
Yeah.
Toxic
So-
gas.
Can't even
in
open your
area.
windows.
You're just gonna have so many people start leaving their house out their fucking windows, and then they're gonna install security systems.
Oh, I sent you guys a video, right? It was the Brett and Heather, the Dark Horse podcast, right? And I was like, you guys should watch this one. You know why I sent that? I mean, it was a really good video.
I know
But
why
in
you
there-
sent that. I know why you sent that.
Why? Why?
Because in there, Brett goes, it's not Orwellian, it's not Huxleyan, like basically saying the dystopia that we're living in. Like it's
it's
a little
not
bit
one
of
of these.
it's a little bit of Orwell, it's a little bit of Huxley, it's a little bit of this, that, right? But really, it's Brazil. And I was like, fuck, this is the whole reason why Cam sent this video.
Why did I fall asleep in the middle of that video?
When I heard him
See?
say it, I was like, Christine, fuck. And she's like, what? I was like, Brazil. She's like,
I set that
what's
up
that?
for
I
like
was
a
like,
year. That was the payoff.
Wow.
Wow, I'm so pissed I fell asleep watching the movie. But okay.
I'm not.
So
I mean, it didn't help that we watched it really late at night at the end of like a whole event and everything.
right,
It's actually
and I had eaten all that chocolate crack thing that Jess had made. It
Oh
was-
my god, that thing is
Remember?
fucked. Wow.
I know.
Yeah, and that
good.
was like the most sweets I've ever seen you eat, like in my entire.
Oh no, I do that often, but you just
Oh,
saw
wow,
it because
okay.
we were in
Okay.
person.
Okay, yeah. Sure.
So
So we have to take over the
That's-
metaverse. dress in
yeah.
trench coats.
So
Why couldn't they just call it the Matrix?
that would be so. It's like
They
that
should have
much
just like
interface.
straight up called it the Matrix. That would have been so much easier for us to like convince people it's the Matrix. Now we have to be like, it's the metaverse is the Matrix.
They're like, oh.
Easier. Just get everyone to start using Technotutor, have them read Snow Crash, and then we'll just be like, the metaverse is the metaverse, guys.
yeah. And so that's the predicament we find ourselves in. And you're either going to look at this and be like, ha, that's entertaining. And you're going to separate from it. You're like, oh, those guys are working on a solution. Or you're going to realize, holy fuck, I'm here at a very specific time and I have a choice. Who am I? Am I going to do the best thing, which is to make sure we don't all get enslaved to the fucking Matrix? Or, right, because look at this. There's infrastructure being built.
Well, why?
Have you
Yeah,
ever
why,
heard of?
I think the question would be, why is it even such a big deal? So what? People have like a cool playground.
Oh, as if.
Oh, as if.
I'm
Because
being the
this is-
devil's advocate. Because
What were you going to say?
Yeah.
The infrastructure is being built about. What were you going to say on that?
Oh yeah, because that gets into the whole like, okay, where do we want the future of humanity to go? Do we want one where people have more freedom and responsibility, or one where a few people dictate stuff for everyone and then everyone's enslaved? But
The second,
we'll get to that in a second. Okay. I know where you stand, no, so now the infrastructure is being put in place. It's been put in place for a minute, but now, with 5G coming online, they can now do even more surveillance. And it's
True.
under the guise of it's going to make your life easier and more effective and safe. But think about this. If you've ever studied network effects, if you've never looked up the word network effects, highly suggest look it up so you can understand how the strength of networks works and how it can influence the world. And specifically what I'm talking about is, think if you were one of the first few companies to get into like telephones, right? And you got the telephone towers in place and all the cables hooked up, you have a pretty good fucking network. Like no one's really going to come in and disrupt you. Until then, cellular came in, right? And then you had to innovate and everything. But think about that right now is it's the infrastructure of ultimate surveillance. And it's like literally the infrastructure of the matrix, like the baseline computers and the hardware behind the matrix. That's what's getting put in right now. And so we have this window of time where we're either going to now direct all that to be the infrastructure of then a world that's actually best for everyone, where we can stop people from actually suffering, stop people from actually starving, and going to bed, without adequate nutrition or education, right? And so we have this opportunity to direct the infrastructure to be that, or we're going to make even more infrastructure for even more consequence that then our kids and our kids' kids are going to have to deal with. And so really now, can you see that self-perfected in this network, as well as TechnoTutor, that is the infrastructure that must get put out. But it's both technological infrastructure through how the software and technology and all that works, and then the support groups and all that, as well as your clubhouse, because that's part of the infrastructure. But then also part of that infrastructure is then literally it's the programming that you get when you're using TechnoTutor and cleaning that up. It's like literally held in your body, which is also it's equal in one to the whole universe, right? Through the resonance. And so that's actually the infrastructure that we want to work on and change, is that, right? But can the average person comprehend that right now? Probably not. So it's on us to then either look, okay, am I fucking serious and I want to do something with my life or not? Because if it's not, then fuck you and stop listening to the podcast, right? But there's probably part of you that wants to actually see, maybe we could make the world better for myself, or at least for my kids, right? So keep listening if that's you.
How much? That's really well said. How much time do you think Bill Gates and Warren Buffett and Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg are going to spend on in the metaverse?
Probably
Not
5
much,
minutes so
not
they
at
can
all.
see, okay, how do I make money from this? Okay,
Like,
cool. Someone
everyone
else-
knows, like, they're not going to be in the metaverse all the time. They're going to be in the
Yeah.
real world, managing their companies and so forth. And they'll have bots and stuff and avatars in there and so forth and do what they need to do. And they'll communicate in there, right? Just like Mark Zuckerberg. Like, think about it. How much is Mark Zuckerberg in using Facebook? Unless he's like giving like a corporate message or something, or doing some specific thing as like media presence.
He's just on
And
there
then-
making new friends, just like, oh yeah, I think we have.
He's like
No,
reading
what
the
the
information
fuck?
on how effective the vaccines are. He's like, I need to know what the CDC said.
He's like getting fooled by that meme where it's like, oh man, you let that homeless guy in your house and he peed all over your floor and now you're never going to help any. Oh, it was a snowman that melted. Oh, I was getting angry at you. Like, wow, how can you be so dumb to let homeless people? And now you're just not going to even help people. Oh my God. It was a snowman. You got me. Susie.
There's that Christmas spirit.
Oh, but check this out. Okay. Cause you're talking about the infrastructure. And remember, Asif, you said this point about, like, what does it matter if people just have their own playground or whatever? Okay. Because there's a certain level where you can think that's all it is, right? Anybody who's ever had a kid, which my kids are not, but if you have, because I grew up with my brother who was like super addicted to video games. Like, you know what it's like when you have like a teenager who's like hooked on fucking playing video games.
Phonics. Oh.
Fuck yeah.
Not phonics.
Hooked on phonics.
Like it's some kind of crack. Like, I just need more phonics. But you know what it's like when you have these kids, like all they want to do is play video games all the time, right? And I saw this meme. Last night I wanted to see what was going on in Reddit, because I haven't been on Reddit in years. And I was curious, like, how are they, because they were always super anti-vaccine, or no, sorry, anti-vax, right? They were always like talking shit about anti-vaxxers, like for years and years and years, long time ago.
Like,
It was
wait.
very clearly a corporate propaganda thing that's been put in place for a while.
Okay, because I was gonna ask, like, what do you mean Reddit? Like, Reddit's just like a forum. Like, what do you mean?
Like,
But I used to spend a lot of time in there like years ago. And if you spend a lot of time in there, there's a Reddit collective personality.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's like,
That's crazy.
There's
obviously there's their own little tiny, niches and so forth, just like on any social media. But like Instagram, like when you think Instagram, what do you think is the main thing going on there?
Babes,
influencing, jets, all that stuff, right? Like, so Reddit has its own sort of thing, right? And they were always super talking shit about anti-vaxxers, right, for a long time. And it was so, and like now, I mean, they've done a lot of exposition on showing how they are manipulated, and it's easy for corporations to manipulate those things and everything. But anyways, so I was on there and I just saw this meme, and it was like this thing where this guy went to heaven, and he was like, you can go back to any time you want in your life and re-experience it like one last time, whatever. What do you choose? And like, it was just, the guy went, and it was like showing this screen of him sitting in his bedroom on the floor with like his TV, like playing video games with like Pokemon posters and stuff like that. And like, that was like his happiest memory. And that was the sentiment, right? And everyone was like, oh dude, the feels, I know exactly. Yeah. So anyways,
So true. So true.
Damn.
And like my brother was like that. Like he would just spend all his time in there like that, right? And he wasn't like a nerdy kid or anything. It was just, and so I see a lot that's like a totally normal thing now.
Yep.
Okay, so there's obviously just if you think of it as a playground, it's a hyper addictive thing, and it's being pushed on people, and parents don't understand what they're doing when they're exposing their kids to this stuff and everything. But there's an even more sinister point within it, which is, we were talking about how, okay, you had these alerts, or these notifications about talking about COVID or whatever on your post. And then you start to see it with the climate stuff, and you're like, what the fuck, right? Well, think about how they've used the vaccine stuff. And now they're very obvious. Like in the beginning, it wasn't this way, but we said it was going to happen. And it's become very obvious that they're more and more pushing everybody to do it and making things restrictive. So you can't in the physical world do things without having the vaccine or getting the test or whatever it is, right? And you can just see that. And then in Austria, y'all heard this, they just mandated every citizen has to get it. The vaccine.
Really?
It's the first country, as far as I understand, it's the first country to mass mandate for their entire population.
Not Israel?
No, as far as I know, it was, I mean, it may not be the first one, but as far as I understand, it's the first one that's mass mandated the vaccine, but you can check. It's irrelevant anyways. It's ironic.
Crazy if there's two of them. Wow.
You guys know of anybody who was born in Austria? Anybody famous?
Abraham, or was it the
Hitler? Abraham Hitler? That's his name, right?
What was it? You guys ever watch Rick and Morty?
Uh-huh.
And there's that episode where basically Rick's having a big party, and he invites all of his intergalactic friends, and one of them is Abradolf Linkler.
Yeah.
He's like, I want to free men, but on the other hand, I want to, like, he's just like always turn between his morality.
It's like a dichotomy. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah. So my point was, you see how they're using this point about the coronavirus, the vaccines, the pandemic, all this stuff to like restrict people's movement and control people's behavior. So you can see what the elite, let's just call them the elite, what the system, it's actually just the system. It's not even the elite, because you can't, the problem is when you say the elite, it's like you're blaming individuals.
You think you
Yes,
are anyway.
they are to blame for participating. But if they didn't do it, if Bill Gates wasn't there, guess what? There'd be a Will Fates. It'd be somebody
Yeah,
else.
exactly, yeah.
It'd be somebody
Yeah.
else doing it. The system is going to find somebody and put him into that point. Okay. So the problem is he's following his pre-programming just like everyone else is doing. So fundamentally, he's not doing anything different. It's just he's got more money. He's got a higher vocabulary, so he can have more influence. Okay. But my point is, you guys can see, and I'm sure anyone listening can see, how the system is using all these points to manipulate and change things so that we all accept that you can or can't do certain things based on having the vaccine or whatever, right? And like you were pointing out, next it's going to be the climate stuff and all that, right? And all the infrastructures being put in place. So question is see, this is going to be one of those things, unfortunately, where people are going to look back at the podcast in a year and be like, oh, fuck, man, they were right about that. Oh, you guys are just being a little bit paranoid and crazy, just like we were apparently a year ago, right? Or 2 years ago, whatever.
Yeah, right.
Was it a year ago, I guess? A year and a half?
A year and a
right?
half.
But now everything we said is like 100%, right? Okay, so with the metaverse stuff, what's going to happen is
They're doing it.
They're
They're
gonna-
going better than.
well,
we
they're going to
predicted,
slowly
yeah.
but surely make it like you have to have this thing integrated on you. You have to wear this thing. You have to do this
Or you
thing
can't enter
that is
this section
somehow,
of the metaverse.
yeah, and that is somehow connected to the metaverse. So more and more, they're going to make it so you have to, in some way, be participating in it. You see what I mean? Like to be able to interact in physical reality,
Yeah.
and they'll use things like virus and things that are fear-based in order to be like, well, I mean, come on, it's just a wearable tracker to make sure, blah, blah, blah. But in reality, it's monitoring your heart rate and all this stuff. And it's setting everything up so that the next generation, it's like already in place. Like there's no person who's not in some way connected to it.
The infrastructure.
Right. So my point being that it's not just a playground,
Also,
which is the way it's promoted. But even the video games are not just playgrounds. Yeah.
Okay. All right. We talked about this on one of the more recent podcasts, like within the last 4. We talked about how it's basically a fiefdom that's coming. Like it's feudalism that's coming, right? Where they are profiting off of you using the metaverse, right? But also, I just went back to, remember, Microsoft has this patent that's like the physical movements that you make then creates currency, Bitcoin for crypto or whatever the fuck it is for them, right? And so you are the fucking, like, you're not just the fucking surf, you're the commodity, you're the thing that's actually, you're the machine.
If
right?
you were an AI that was like literally trying to take over human reality, isn't that exactly what you would do? Like, because like think about it, why would humans benefit from that? Why would Bill Gates even benefit from it? Doesn't he have enough money? It's like he's doing the bidding of some fucking AI. Do you see what I mean? That's kind of like, I need more energy from humans. Like literally,
okay.
how can we turn humans into batteries?
And Bill's like, okay, I think we all.
He's like, I don't want to. He's like, I'm not really sure. And they're like, oh yeah, what about this picture of you and Epstein? And he's like, oh fuck, okay, okay, I'll do it.
I heard you wanted a Nobel Peace Prize. Like,
Oh, okay, yeah.
yes.
Go talk to Epstein. He'll give you a Nobel Peace Prize. Like, oh, okay, sure. He walks into this party. He's like, I think I'm in the wrong place. They're like, no, Bill, you're in the right place. Come over here real quick. Gotcha.
Yeah, nice.
Wow, that's so funny.
We were talking about community yesterday on one of our private calls, on one of our calls about privates. That one. You have to have certain privates to be on this call. Anyway,
True.
We were talking about community on there, and to the point of infrastructure, like why it's important as far as what we're talking about with AI and metaverse and all that shit is like, because the direction of the world, where it's going. I was talking to some guys about this at the meetup yesterday as well, about they were saying, oh, this was really great. They were bringing up the point of, we are now in the age of genetic engineering, genetic modification, gene therapy, however you want to call it, right? And they were saying, we were already in that in that stage, but it was something that it was like you would do for yourself. You would volunteer for, hey, I want this for my particular problem, or the designer babies that people were, trying to create or whatever, where you would inject yourself with some kind of gene therapy for whatever, right? But you elected to go do it. Versus now, it's what the point that he was making was, it is now something that is coming from the government down, saying, this is the direction that we're heading. We're all on board now. And if you're not, you are the other. You're the savage. You don't fit in anymore, right? And so what's interesting about that is, okay, that means if you don't like the direction, which is, I think Brett Weinstein was saying this, the vast majority of people are not on board with what's going on, but it's a minority that's driving everything, and they're really loud, and they're really.
But Avery's been saying.
Avery says the same thing. It's like, it's never the majority that changes things. It's always the minority, right? What you got there?
Is that quesadillas?
Breakfast quesadillas.
Wow.
Dang.
Is there eggs in there, or is it just regular quesadillas?
Eggs, bacon, veggies. Wow.
But
Wow.
Yeah,
I gotta text Jessica and tell her to.
I'm driving over right now. oh, we haven't talked
Drake,
about that yet.
Whoa, one second.
Wait, I'm like, you don't need to go over there. You have someone who can do that.
He's like, oh yeah, I'm married.
She's out shopping right now.
Quesadillas feet.
Yeah, tell her to bring some sour cream.
There you go. But anyway.
That's actually what you can do. Be like, hey, don't forget the sour cream. She's like, why do we sour cream? For the quesadillas you're gonna make.
You're about to make me. The cereal that I eat every morning, the one that you call Fruit Loops, that's homemade granola.
Oh wait, is it that granola? That stuff's good.
Yeah. So
I need to try that with some almond milk. I need you guys to send me some more. You could mail that.
No, I think she sent the recipe. So just download it from your 3D printer, aka Katie.
Hey, just shout out. Really there's a novel called Diamond Age that you get that I would highly recommend, and that's all about being able. They have these. What do they call them?
Primers.
I thought they're not called primers. The things they used to like
Materializer.
to predict materializer. Is that what it is?
I don't know.
It's something like that. It's like a replicator or fabricator or something. But like literally, you just like upload the blueprint, or you just select the one you want. It just creates the thing.
MC.
But they limit what you're allowed to print and so forth based on like your economic status and stuff. It's
yeah. It's called.
You can literally print anything you want, and they like limit what yours is able to print.
Right, and like you can print meals for yourself, but like it's just like fake rice or whatever. Yeah. Okay. So that's what's coming for you, right? It's just basically fake rice, fake life, fake everything. I was making this point on the call that we were having yesterday, that if you are going by like, hey, everything's okay, this is what everyone else is doing, this is what the kids are doing, whatever, it's like you are literally setting yourself up for retardation, meaning a slowing down, meaning going backwards, meaning you're not actually evolving as a human. Technology is evolving, but you as a human, you're not evolving, right? And you're actually getting demand. Okay. Anyway, but you're actually putting yourself in a lower position as a being. And it's not just that. It's not just that. Because then that means you have to go along with whatever society is saying. Oh, hey, now we've got this new gene therapy that is, the injection into your eye, and it's supposed to make your eyesight better. And you're like, no, I don't want that one. And you're like, too bad, because that's where society is going. And if you don't do it, you're the savage, you're the anti, you're the unvaccinated, anti-vaxxer, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But also, even more so than that, and again, these techie guys, they're a little smart, right? They may not be the most sociable, but they're a little smart. And they said this, they're like, one thing that is a necessity for people is to be around other people. You have to have that social aspect. And they were saying, because otherwise it's not just a breakdown in society. You as yourself get depressed, you're isolated, right? And so what's going to happen is either you are a complete fucking sellout and you go along with everything that's happening that you disagree with, and you just take it up the ass, whatever's given to you, like here's your injection, all that, right? Or you are against all of this stuff, but you don't join what we're doing, and you're completely isolated, you're depressed, nothing's going for you. You're like alone in your little bubble, and you're like, I'm fighting, I'm the resistance, and like nothing's happening for you. Your life is just meaningless, essentially, because you're not connecting with other people. Or you can join what we're doing and actually build a community here where you are locally of other people, because there are other people, guarantee it. Megan was saying this on, I think in one of the meetings that we had, Megan was saying how someone had challenged her to go and take a stand in her local area, right? Just like not wearing a mask. And she's like, there's no one in my area that's doing that or is going to be down for that or anything like that. But I'm just going to try it. And she tried it. She went into a store and she said, someone came up to her and her heart was racing. And then they were like, hey, can I help you out with anything? And then after they helped her, they're like, hey, I love what you're doing. I absolutely love what you're doing. I wish I could be as brave as you, right? And so the reason why I'm bringing that up is because there are other people in your area who they are looking for someone else to please take a stand, because they're not believing in themselves that they can do it right now, right? But if you're listening to this, you actually want to make a difference. Take a stand, be the inspiration for them, grow this community, get other people involved. And then what happens? It's like, then you can have, I don't think we've talked about it yet. Like all the events that we've had, all the, like, okay, we talked about in Orlando, we talked about in Minneapolis, and we talked about, well, we didn't talk about Texas.
No, this is our first episode since y'all got back home.
Okay, yeah. But I will say this, like every event, we talk about how awesome our community is, how much we have fun together. There's so many different aspects. And each time we get together, it gets even better. It grows even more. It's our people even more so, just like, yo, we're in this. And we have more people actually. And we have a lot more fun. And we challenge each other to actually grow. Dude, I don't know if you saw, I don't think you were on cam at yesterday, but Baron was saying how like he got challenged when he was at your house, and it really forced him to take a look at himself and go, oh, I have not been living actually the way that I want to. Like, and I wasn't even aware of it. And then he actually started to make some shifts and changes, and it caused him to face some fears that he had of like going out and talking to people. And he was actually grateful for the challenge. But you saw him at the house, like that was tough, you know, to challenge someone like that. And I was making this point yesterday of like, who in your environment is actually willing to stand up, to walk with you, to actually challenge you in a way that's going to be difficult or challenging for yourself and for them. But they're supporting you on the other end to actually be better, not just hating on you, right? And not also just like, no, he's my friend, you know, I'll figure it out, whatever. No, it's like, who's actually there pushing you, challenging you in a way that's like, hey, that's not supportive for you. And here's what you need to face within that. And I'm willing to stand here as this point. I know, Cam, you do that all the time, right? I'm willing to stand here as this point of, I'm not going to allow your weakness, right?
So here's what is required to be able to do that, right? Obviously, within yourself, you have to be walking the points and pushing yourself. But having an environment where people can get together and have fun, and then within that, because everyone is there within the same starting point, which means there's going to be people at each, there's going to be people who are relatively new, people who have been there for a while, but everyone is there for the same reason, if that makes sense, right? It's not like you just invite random ass people and they don't know why they're there. So within the event we did in Texas, and maybe I'll have you guys, if you want, you can share your experience and so forth and what you got out of it. But we had an environment where it was basically, it was like the leaders were there. So it was still a small group by design. So we had the leaders within TechnoTutor who were there. And these are also the leaders in Self-Perfected who are going to be doing their clubhouses and so forth. Many of them already are, like you guys and people who decided to do clubhouses after the event. They realized the importance of it. But we created an environment where everyone could have a lot of fun, where we could then challenge everybody. Does that make sense? Because if you just challenge people, like if you just go up on the street and start challenging people, that's not going to work. If you go to a church and you start challenging people, they're just going to react and resist, right? So we have an environment where everyone's there for the same reason, right? At various points within themselves of understanding that, but it's explicit. You're there for these principles or this thing, right? And then within that, we create a fun environment, and then we can challenge people one-on-one and so forth, right? And it's not like you're going out of your way looking for people to challenge. It's just when you see people and you start talking and you start seeing what they're going through and where they're limiting themselves, then you start saying, like, hey, why haven't you done this? Like if you're talking to somebody and they've been using TechnoTutor for 3 years and they're not even in a relationship, then it's like, hey, why aren't you in a relationship? Like, what's going on? Like, why haven't you done that yet? And they start telling you all their reasons and excuses and everything. And you start supporting them to see how they can overcome that point, like why it's not valid. What do they need to shift within themselves? And then they can go back and investigate further and use the tools. So it's not like they're there and you're telling them what to do with their life. You're just challenging them on the points where they're saying, well, whatever their excuse or limitation is, right? And it's always coming back to the principles. So that's a key point. It's not, although like the thing Megan, you talk about Megan, that's really cool. That's a good way of recruiting people. You know what I mean? Of like finding people to bring into your clubhouse, like don't wear your fucking mask in that environment and then see who responds to it. And then you can invite them, for example. And sometimes you just have to go and do that just to get the nerves out. It may not be the first time you do it, you're going to be able to actually talk to people because you're going to be so nervous and all that. And I get that. But it could be a thing where you deliberately go out to places and don't wear your mask and see who you respond to. Like once you're stable within the point, right? Just an example. But the point, and I'm clarifying that because it's not just about going out and taking a stand. Right? It's not about just go out and you just don't wear the mask. Like that's not going to change the system. That eventually will lead to you can't go anywhere. That's just resisting. So do that within a specific context, within a specific purpose of bringing people to your club. Does that make sense? Yeah. So we're not suggesting people, again, everything we're always talking about is within the context of engaging in our system, not just, it's like even we talk about advice about relationships, making money and so forth, right? We're not just trying to give general advice. We're saying within the context of being in the self-perfected system, these are points to consider. Don't just go out and
A quick point to mention. It's like when we started this podcast, one of the reasons we started this podcast was a systematic way of sharing what we know with distributors. So I know there's a lot of people now who listen to it who are not distributors, but when we're saying getting into a relationship, if you're not a distributor and you get into a relationship, good luck. In this day and age, right?
Well, in any age, you're just going to go with their pre-program.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
You're either going to just become enslaved to each other, or you're going to end up splitting up. You're not going to find actual freedom within it, right? Because the foundation of if the purpose of your relationship is not to create a world that's best for all, then how the fuck are you going to create a relationship that's best for you? Like you can't separate it. Well, I'm going to create the best relationship that I can have possible. Well, then you're going to be competing with everybody else. Does that make sense? Like if you're like, well, I just want to have the most passionate relationship, but you're going to be competing with all the other influences in this world. Because how do you have a passionate relationship? oh, we're going to travel to Bali and do this and that. And just have all these fun things we do. And it's like, but then you have to wear get the vaccine. You have to wear the mask, you have to do all these other things. And when you're there, you have to act a certain way. It's like, you're going to be limited in what you can do. So think about this. This is actually great because remember we talked about the starting point of the Chinese social credit system was to allow the trustworthy to roam anywhere under heaven and the discredited not to take a single step. That's their whole thing, right? Well, that's just the systematic expression of what's really going on. In reality, everything is being pushed towards a point where if you do not stand for life and you do not stand for what's best for all, you will be restricted severely 100% all the way. So there's only one choice, either become a total complete slave or stand up and be free. But the standing up and being free has to be within the context of understanding how the system works and how to change it in all these points. It can't just be just your random idea of standing up. So it's like, you can't be a flat earther. You can't be a fucking anti-vaxxer. You can't be an unschooler, or whatever. Like, yeah, it's like you're trying to do it in some one specific way where it's like your little niche way of standing up. But the system will use all of that as ways to lock down further, as ways to gain more control. It has to be a total systematic rebuilding of your character and the character of the world in order to support everybody to shift within who they are and their starting point of why they're alive and how they live and how they express themselves. So it can't just be, well, I'm just going around on the street corner and telling people to take off their masks. Like, okay, you can do that, but what's the next thing after that? Then what do they do? Then they just go back to their job where they have to wear it? Like, how the fuck is that supposed to work? It's not going to work, right? So step one, create a community where you're at, a self-perfected community. It starts with yourself and your family, if you have a family. If not, get a partner.
Wait. Step one, get techno tutor.
Well, yeah, no shit.
Again, this is for the distributors.
Yeah,
that was step zero.
Yeah,
that was step zero.
Become a distributor.
Yeah, obviously, if you're just some rando fucking like, oh, I'm gonna start a clubhouse, you don't know what the fuck you're doing. Like, you got to become a distributor. You got to be engaged. But I'm just saying, I'm giving you the vision of where it goes, right? Because you're like, well, I'm just gonna get techno tutor and use that, and that's all I do. How does that gonna change the world? The point is creating a self-perfected clubhouse. Don't go start it on your own because you don't know what you're doing. Like, communicate with us to understand how to do it because we know how to do it. And then within that, you start creating that community. And then you start finding the people who are wanting to stand up, but don't know how to do that. They're trying to do it in all these other ways. But then through that, you start building a community where you start educating people and you start having a lot of fun and you go from there. Okay. And there's a lot more to it, but that's just the basic point. So maybe you guys can talk a little bit about your experience in Texas and like, was it even better than Orlando? And not to downplay what we had in Minneapolis, but it was a whole nother level, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Because it was focused on one point. Oh my, that by far the greatest event I've ever been to.
Yeah, same.
Why do you say that, Asa?
The measure that I'm using for that is the reason why we generally go to events is to level up, make a decision, change, all that stuff. I've never seen it on such a systematic, each person that I know went to that event took away, like, not just like they're motivated for the next step. It's like something physically changed about them or about their life. And they're like, holy fuck, if I didn't go to this event, and then really get me to realize, like, I'll be honest, like, I told you guys, like, in the past, like, before every Gen event, me and Cam would be like, we don't know, should we really go, blah, blah, blah. Then we go and it'd be like, oh my God, I'm so glad we went, right? But if other people, if it was like a real struggle and the blah, 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 and, I'm like, all right, cool, there's always going to be a next one. It's not a big deal. But I can very, very, very clearly see the people who were able to come to that event versus the people who weren't able to come to that event, their process is delayed by years or until the next event, right? But my point is, like, I watched people walk through things that actually at every scale, at every level of the spectrum of, I watched people walk through things that they were never going to figure out in their lifetime, for sure, no doubt. I watched people walk through things that they weren't going to figure out for years, that they've been accepting for years, and they blast through it. And it was absolutely remarkable what we can do. And that was at scale. That wasn't a group of 5 people. It wasn't a group of 9 people like last year. That was at a level where it's like you have a lot of people, and getting to penetrate each individual where they exploded some point inside of them and they were like, holy shit, I'm going to my next level. Like it was, I've never seen that before in my life. It was really astounding.
Yeah. I was
Hold on,
really
before you go on, Asif, can you get some examples, like without obviously using people's names and stuff, just like some specific examples that
Oh,
you saw so people
man.
can see like tangibly?
Okay, one of them was I feel like they could use their name, but it's not a big deal, whatever. But there was somebody who I could see they were never going to get into a relationship in their entire life. Just because of their programming, their secrecy, their privacy, they just wanted to focus on themselves. They didn't want to share another life and take that responsibility. And they were not going to figure it out. They were looking for a partner for some time now. But I'm doing air quotes because within themselves, there were certain things that they were not going to break through. They weren't even aware of that they weren't going to get through in order to do that. And literally in a matter of when I saw this person and like I mentioned a couple of points, I'm like, hey, you should look at this point and this point. And they were like, oh, fuck, damn, you know? And that's only something you could do in person. Right? It's like when you're in someone's physical environment, you four know that because you've supported people in person. When you're physically in front of them, you can see the points, right? So being able to just see it and then be like, here, these 2 points. And then he was like, oh my God. Okay. So he starts looking at that. And I shit you not, within 30 hours later, 24 hours later, he's in a relationship. It was ridiculous. It was like, oh my God. And that was exemplar of everything that was going on there. We had somebody the first day he came and sat down at, breakfast or whatever. It's like there was this recurring problem in his life for like years, like 5 years. And in the first 3-4 minutes of talking to him, it's like we're already, I'm like, hey man, how's it going? Great to see you, right? Oh, you're wearing a t-shirt. It's so cold out here. So what's been going on with this aspect of your life? And he explains it. I'm like, I give him a piece of advice and I could see what it did to his body. It affected him. It was because it was something that he's been holding on for about 5 years now. And literally he gets home and completely changed that point, completely let it go. Something he'd been holding on for 5 years. I want to get into the specifics of it just in case, but I've seen that on a systematic basis. Because when we were speaking on stage, stuff like that, afterwards, somebody came up to me. He's like, hey, I have some of the issues that you were talking about you used to have. Can we talk about it? And I was talking to him outside, and then eventually a couple of guys gathered around. Remember, we're all like kind of sitting outside the conference room. And then same thing. He was like, oh my God, like I need to go home and make a change. He goes home. He went home a little bit early, sends me a voice clip. Like, hey man, I just totally like let go of this. And that was for 7 years. Right. And generally speaking, all these things, they're in the context of relationship, business, jobs, all that stuff. It was unbelievable watching people make life-changing decisions because they could see that, somebody, we were talking privately and somebody was making this point of, they say, oh, all you care about is money. And, all you guys focus on is money. Right. And it was on like Mitchell's posts and all this stuff. And we get to this event and over half of what we're talking about is relationships.
Yeah, we're really not talking about money or anything at all.
Like 5.
It's
10%.
like, yeah, of course you need to make money because how else are you going to have any fucking effect in the system? Okay, but now to do that, here's how you have to build your life. And all the shit that people want anyway. Anybody who says, oh, you don't care about money or all you care about is money, one of two things: they don't know how to fucking do it and they're jealous, or two, their life's already basically secure and they don't give a fuck. And they're just pretending. Those are the two things.
Great point.
And generally people who are really poor, they don't think like that. They're like, yeah, I want money. Like if you were like, hey, I just this winning lottery tickets, $10 million. Does anybody want it? You think they're gonna be like, I don't care about money. Who the fuck would be like no to that?
Right. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really cool. What else, Jake? You wanted to share a little bit?
I know I was going to share really similar points, just like seeing what everyone takes away and how they've changed, and how like I love being around all of us, you know, because we're actually here with the purpose of creating ourselves to be best, to create a world that's best, right? And so it really shows in the things that we do, you know, like, okay, yeah, you need money to put on an event like this, right? But then when we actually get together, it's like we're there supporting each other to be best within like relationships, within like what are our limitations, what are we accepting within ourselves, and then stopping that or changing that, or you know. And I talked to a few people as well who the same point, just like someone came up to me and said, hey, you walked through this point, someone said I should talk to you, can you give me some advice on this?
Yeah.
And then like, you know, a few minutes
All
later,
right, have a seat. Yeah.
yeah, we're having a seat, we're eating some barbecue, some ribs and shit. And then they're walking away, like tears coming down their face, because they're like, they had a realization. They had a realization of like, oh wow, it was intense, it was profound for them. And then they came back and they said thank you, you know, like, because they're making huge fucking shifts. It's so cool. Like, okay, imagine, you know how people go to like conferences and shit, and they're like, oh, this is gonna be my conference and all this, right?
Right.
You go, you watch the people on stage, maybe you shake hands with a few people, and then you go home, and that's it, right? And it's like, you know, everything that you experience is just from yourself, really. It's like maybe you got something good out of what the speaker said. You jotted down some notes. You're like, wow, that was good. How do I start implementing this in my life? But here, it's like we had an event. There were speakers on stage. They said amazing things, right? And then and I did take notes because that was fucking amazing, right? But then, as well as literally everyone there is your fucking friend, who is there to support you and wants for you to win and succeed as well. And not in this superficial, artificial way where it's just like, hey, you know, I'm rooting for you. No, it's like, yo, what's up? What's going on? Okay. Oh, wait, why is that an issue for you? Oh, well, had you looked at it this way? Let's talk. Let's really get into it, you know? And then
I have a point real quick I want to add in before
Yeah.
you move on. That the point you just said about how you want people to win and so forth, right? Like when you would go to any other group, people always say like, yeah, I want everyone else to win too.
right.
But they're acting like it's a selfless thing. Does it make sense? They're acting like just because I just want everyone else to succeed. And if I have that intention,
And it opens me up to succeed as well.
but the reality is they actually want it for themselves,
Right.
but they're being dishonest about wanting the other person to succeed
Right.
because they
talked
don't
about this.
actually, we have talked about this.
Like I'm saying a long time ago. It's like this point of, oh, so you're saying that if I really celebrate them, like if I really do it, then that means like
Right.
I'm more likely,
But that's not real. It's not
Exactly.
actually.
You're doing it
It's
because
kinda
you're gonna get.
Perfect example, when you get a
Maybe.
present from somebody and you say thank you,
Mhm.
you actually are just like saying thank you because you're supposed to do it. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
And why else would you say thank you when you get a gift you don't like? Why wouldn't you be like, I don't appreciate this gift?
Yeah.
Like,
We're laughing because it's breaking that social
I appreciate that
construct,
you
right?
made an effort, but I don't like this gift. I don't appreciate it. And it's like, how dare you? Why would you say that? Like, because you're just trying to artificially give the other person something, right? So when you're at an event and you're like, I want everybody to succeed. I'm like, okay, every single person there, you want them to succeed, no matter what their dream is. Yes. I just want them to all to succeed. Okay, that guy's a serial rapist.
Yeah.
Well, no, not that guy. Come on, not that guy. I didn't know. You know, it's like, I mean, is it really just like you want everyone to succeed, or is it there's limits?
That guy's trying to have sex with your wife. No, not that guy. Not that guy.
Right. Like his dream is to like kick you out of your family and take over your family.
Yeah.
So clearly there's limits. right? So then you have to question, okay, so where do you draw the line there, right? Well, so think about this, like you don't actually care about the other person's dream. You actually, I'm talking about in the context of other events that they don't want you to know about. Okay. In these other events, you're saying I'm there because I want everyone else to succeed. But what is the common purpose that everyone is trying to succeed with it? There isn't one.
No.
Right? Now, let's look at our events, for example, our group. Whether it's at an event or just talking on the phone with somebody or being on a like the Friday hangout or whatever. Do you genuinely want those people to succeed?
Yeah.
If they were like, well, my goal is to be a crypto millionaire. Oh,
We cut out.
Wait.
Would you say you said crypto?
I said like if they're like, I just want to be a crypto millionaire. I don't care about all this principal stuff. Do you want them to succeed at that in itself?
No.
No.
No. But if they were like, well, I'm using it to build some capital and I'm using that for this reason. And then also I'm building a techno tutor business or I'm running a clubhouse, like all these points. This is just something else that I'm able to do. Then you're like, cool, that's fine.
Yeah.
Right. But then you're like, okay, I want to support this person to get into a stable relationship, have kids, be more within the purpose, study the material, the blogs, equal, all these things, right? Use their techno tutor more effectively and so forth, right? That's really what you're going to support them in, right?
Yeah.
So let's just take the context of being at the Texas event. Did you not genuinely want all of those people to succeed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, of
Do you
course.
see, you didn't have to go like, well, I want them to succeed, but you actually don't care. Like you actually did want them to, because we all have the same purpose.
Yeah.
It's like if you were on a basketball team,
Actually true. That's crazy.
wouldn't you be like, dude, I totally want everybody on this team to like succeed and do the very best they can.
Fuck yeah.
But do you think that about the other players on the other team?
No.
Hell no.
I mean, ultimately, no, because you're competing for the championship.
Right.
If there was no, now let's just shift it for a moment. Let's just say the purpose of basketball games was to put on the best performance. If that was the starting point and there was no winning a championship, then you'd be like, dude, I want the other team to like do fucking amazing dunks right over me and shit, because that would be so entertaining. And then I'm going to do dunks on them and all this other stuff. You wouldn't have that same feeling of competition because you have the same purpose.
Yeah.
But when you're playing basketball, you don't have the same purpose. So imagine you're at an event where everyone has different purposes. Are you not all competing in the same system?
Yes.
And is it a system where everybody can get rich?
No.
Currently, no.
Even at an unconscious level, you do not want them to succeed. You're lying when you say you do.
Yeah. That's why
So
those
if
events
you-
don't have anything on us.
Well, they don't, right? But can you see like they're it's never going to work. What we're doing is the only thing that can work, because here's the next thing. The purpose that we're all working towards is not my arbitrary purpose or Drake's or Mitch's or Asif's or some other person's arbitrary purpose. Like you're working for some company and it's really all about Jeff Bezos. You know what I mean? Where at the end of the day, it's not, what we're doing encompasses everything, all of reality. We're aligning ourselves to that purpose to make it work. And that's why this is the only purpose worth having, because it makes you have to adjust everything about yourself. That doesn't mean suddenly because you're doing this purpose, you're perfect all of a sudden. And like everything you do is flawless and you can't be questioned or anything. Of course, that's bullshit. You have to then self-honestly walk the process of adjusting yourself to figure out, how do I actually stand up and do this and do it properly and not make excuses and have limitations and fears. And we all have to constantly do that.
And this
You're
is
gonna say
why you can have a 50, 60-year-old woman at the event and an 18, 19-year-old boy, guy. And it's just like a 225-year-old dudes talking, because we're united in principle and purpose. That's the coolest part. It's like we have so many different people from so many walks of life. You've got like moms talking to 22.
Yeah, and they can all sit down and talk. It's not
It's like
like, okay,
irrelevant.
these people are not going to relate to those people.
Yeah. It's just like, oh, like, cool. I want to hear your story. Like, how did Techno Tutor support your life? Because I have no context for it. And they're like, well, for me, like I had my kids, I was paying $20,000 a year for their education. And after 3 months with Techno Tutor, it was far superior to that. So I took them out. And you're like, what? Like those two kids? Like, you mean the 8-year-old that already has a business and is selling bracelets and now she's sold out? Oh, wait, she didn't want to start a business before Techno? Whoa. True story, Kiara. right? Which is so cool. She's got the bracelet business. They sold out. So it's just like, and then she's like, well, how did it help you? He's like, oh, like I was a totally depressed loser. And, like I finished high school and I didn't want to go to college, but I felt forced. But then I found this, and now like my life is on a totally different trajectory, and found a partner, all this stuff. And it's like, I've never felt so certain within myself before. She's like, oh, damn. So it's not just like, it goes far beyond,
And-
what I even figured it could help with.
And it's not just, oh, I'm doing this and I'm becoming happy. It's, I'm doing this and therefore I'm taking more responsibility for being an example and supporting the world to actually change physically, and supporting other people to change themselves. And therefore I'm experiencing all this happiness that comes with that.
Yeah.
There's like a glitch. I don't know if it cut out or not.
Yeah, you were,
Because it's like you go to church and you just show up and Jesus saves you, and then suddenly my life is so much better now. Right? It's like, right, but how is that possible?
Wait, what were the
That'd be
problems
like-
in your life again? Oh yeah, abusive husband, shitty job. Okay, did those things change?
no,
Just by going to church every day or
No.
every week or whatever, it's like that didn't change. That'd be like thinking, oh, I can just go to the gym and hang out in there, and I'm so much more healthy now. And it's like, no, because isn't that what church is? Because at the end of the day, if you go to the church and you're like, okay, everybody here, I want to go around the room and I want you to tell me how you're living exactly like Jesus did.
Boom. I was thinking about that the other day. Like, they're
I'd
coming
show
off
up
the
at
stage
that
and being
church.
what did you? I'd show up at that church, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like, what would they say? They'd be like, but when you come to a clubhouse, that's what it is. And it's not like you sit down and like, okay, how did you fucking do it today? It's like, no, it's in a fun way. But the point is, you have implicitly and explicitly the right to be able to challenge each other, because
Yeah.
you're here for this reason.
And
Right.
there's a level of accountability to it as well, right?
Yeah.
With what we're doing. And that's what I see no other group genuinely has, because we're all committed to this purpose. There's a general sense of, okay, well, how am I going to be held accountable? Right? You have different numbers that, you could set for yourself, or you set personal goals, and then, we can all support you to be accountable to that. Whereas these other groups, it's like, there's no freaking accountability really at all. And so that's what I find. I love that about our clubhouses, and specifically that Texas event, because that's really the ultimate of the clubhouses.
So what did you get at? What were you gonna say, Drake?
I was gonna say on top of that, like everyone that you're going to talk to, the reason why it's so fucking profound is because they walked through it. They've done it for themselves, and so like
Right.
it's
It's somebody speaking
challenging,
from
whatever.
experience.
But like I fucking went through that challenge, so like I know what it is, so I can share that with you, and you can see where you're not willing to do that, or where you've limited yourself to doing that thus far, right? So shit, did I freeze? Because I saw Mitch, you go like this, and then it froze like that.
No.
Okay,
No,
cool.
we heard the words. Yeah.
It's
And,
fine. Yeah.
one thing I wanted to mention before we jump to Mitch is like, it's so cool because, I mean, if we think about it we'll just simplify things, but the last event, there's, 9-10 of us or whatever. And it's like, there's the 8 that needed support and the 2 people who could support.
Real quick, it wasn't an event. It was us bringing people who we
Yeah.
see were actual like leaders within what we're doing.
Uh-huh.
I just want to be clear on everybody, because they're like, oh, you had an event with 10 people. It's like, we just invited people to our house
Yeah, come hang out.
around the same time last year, but that specifically could handle it. That
Mhm.
were like, yes, this is my purpose now. Right. And then we were able to create a really cool environment with that.
Yeah.
Right? But then this year we deliberately said, now we're going to have an event where it's like you have speakers and conference, that kind of thing, plus other stuff outside of the event. Like we can go into that a little bit too. But
But
that
good-
was
good
an event
distinction.
where, does that make sense though? Like,
Yeah.
yes, at the same time, it's like, yeah, look how much it grew, but there was a deliberate decision to put on an event.
There
right?
were 9 or 10 people that you were happy to have over, because you can see they're pushing themselves, and now there's over 50 of them. That's
Yeah.
the cool part. And the really cool part is the reason, what I was saying before is like, we were able to do that in a group of 50 people, like really truly support each individual, because there's not just 2 people who can support now.
Mm.
That's the fucking coolest part. It's all of us who were at the Copes last year. We're like, oh, like getting fucked up. And we're like, okay, we see our point that we need, right? And we've really taken that and really have been pushing ourselves over the last year. And now we can support other people to do that while we continue to walk our process.
Were you living with Melat when you came last time?
Yes.
You had just started living probably together,
We
right?
just started living. Yeah.
Now you're married, right? Anything else? You got a new car.
moved.
Yeah, we got a new
You
car.
moved.
Got a new car.
We moved. We moved.
But you guys took your whole relationship to a whole nother level,
Yeah.
right? And I'm not saying it was because of you guys coming down here per se, although it was a big catalyst to all that stuff. But the reason I brought
There
it
was
up
one.
was,
No, like let's be specific. Katie said, "Why aren't you guys married yet?"
yeah,
I was like,
which she couldn't have said that in a way that would have got through without that context of that you guys being here. But my point is, when you were saying, we pushed ourselves, like you're not just saying that. Like you actually did the things and walked through many of the things that now the newer people are going to be like, hey, I'm having this challenge. Like you've actually done it. You see what I mean? That's the difference. It's not just that you're saying, oh yeah, we pushed ourselves. Like anyone can say you push yourselves, but you have measurable things. I mean, everything in your life has gotten better. I've seen it happen.
right. I'm living in a different country,
So yeah.
And so the point there is really looking forward to next year. It's like we're going to have a whole new wave of people who are stable enough to support the hundreds of other people who are going to be there. So that's the really cool part of us growing. Mitch.
Yeah.
Tell us.
Well, yeah, that was my favorite event I've ever been to. I think a big part of it is like, I just thought of this analogy when you were talking, is like the world right now is like parched. They like need some sort of sustenance. So picture it like some dry grass that's like dying. And that's the world right now. Right. And then when you get techno-tutor, it's like you get hooked up to a little drip of water. Right. So you can be nourished within yourself. But then when you become a distributor, that's when you really take it on for real. Right. Because it's one thing to get yourself nourished. It's another thing to then take on that responsibility. Then you become like this fire hose and you can like spray all the, the dry
epic analogy.
grass of the world. Right. Because
that's what we call Mitchell. That's what we call Mitchell, the fire hose.
Yeah. Fire
Just
hose.
imagine these people on the street and you're just like,
Yeah, when I used to go out door knocking. Knock knock.
you're like, ah, shit. That's how you get in the house. You just like blast them backwards and they're like, I'm coming in.
Oh, fire hose. You never cease to impress me. I'm talking to Mitchell.
It's like that's how you really see who you are, is because like nothing else will really force you to change and then go mass distribute something that actually matters. But part of being a distributor is like you become an access point for people to really reconnect back to life itself, right? There's no other way. And so when you now have a group of 50, 60, I don't know how many people were there total, but that are all at that level, not just nourishing themselves, right? Because we've had other events like our wedding, there's a lot of techno-tutor people, or, the last Gin event, a lot of people use TT there. But this was now a whole group that was all nourishing themselves, right? And able to operate at that higher level, but then also committed to that purpose, right? Because they've shown it because they're a distributor. That is unlike anything that's ever happened before, on planet Earth. And so I love that aspect. And also having an event with like with speakers and hearing Avery talk for, I don't know how long he talked, but that was a real treasure. Like that was amazing to just hear him go. He doesn't have any notes, maybe has 2 talking points, and just the amount of wisdom that I gained from that, I'm still mulling over, all of that. Like it just resonates with you. And then to hear, a lot of us also be able to talk. That was great. And it just came so automatic. It's not like I had to even try in any way. It was like, this is just genuinely what I see makes sense. This is what I see the group needs. This is what I need. Cool. And then you just have that, and then that just carried into the whole week. And then being able to just see what Cameron's been able to do in the few short months you've been there, of making the network in town too, and seeing that infrastructure, and then what that's going to morph into. It's like, it's so great. Because so one of the guys that we met with was explaining how the local town there is a place where a lot of people are coming to, because like you can now work from anywhere, you know, if you work in the system. So a lot of people want to live in more of that small town feel. And it's like people there are working on global things. So we met with a guy who had just toured like the biggest helicopter factory or something, like kind of intense that he was explaining to us. But then he's also, you know, helping put the mayor in place in town. And he's like really well connected in politics. And then there's another guy who has a 350 acre farm, and the vision for him to see how, okay, there's also part of the infrastructure. And then they're all seeing what we're doing. I don't know the last person who brought that many people to town was, but Cameron did. You know, and people that genuinely are like, yo, I'm here for a purpose, not just because my company, you know, is paying me to come to a weekend retreat. It's like, no, we all out of our own volition made time to be there. And that was yet another supercharge. And so it's just been the most remarkable year for me, going from last year in Texas to then, me and Jess, we were together, but we weren't engaged or married, to then doing that, getting our home, you know, buying our home, getting married, having the wedding, building a team. Like at that time, I wasn't an AD, I didn't have distributors, to now have this empire here in Minneapolis and clubhouses where we're consistently we had to get a new office because we were overfilling the room. So now I see, okay, next step is get, you know, 50 people consistently to the meetup or to the clubhouse. And then I'm so clear. I know what to do. And now I saw, however, you know, all the other people from Minnesota that came to that event too, they all got the download. Because now I know over the next year, they're all going to get into their relationships and get married and everything. So now when Jessica and I have kids, all of our kids are going to have peers, and then we'll have our whole network here. Right. And then it's just remarkable. And if you want a life of fulfillment, here it is, staring you straight in the face, because anything else is going to be empty, because it's going to be going along with that agenda of getting us into this fake ass, you know, metaverse world. Whereas what we're standing for is something real. And then we can actually then use that. I mean, that literally is that infrastructure of the new world, but it's not the new world order. It's the new world in order. That's best for all, right? That's really what this is. And you're seeing it in front of your own eyes. And again, you have the choice to either not participate or participate. But if you're not going to participate, it's not actually a choice. You're actually just allowing limitation. But when you choose to be part of this and become equal to it, you can then help us direct this and then direct reality in a way that reality has never seen before. It's amazing.
Yeah, really well said.
Well said.
So Cameron, you've got a different background, right? You moved
Yeah, I just moved my office from over there to here.
down the hall. Yeah.
Bigger office.
I got a different office.
Good.
Give a
I think it'd be cool to hear Cameron's take on the event too. Just
yeah,
before
that's a good idea.
Yeah. What do you think?
Oh man,
Yeah,
it was
dude.
great.
Like I want you to go back to like 2014, 2015, like 2013, and then just be like, okay, this is fucking real. Like we actually did this.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Because you had some people who have been around like a really long time, right? And like, you know, like Valley Mine and stuff like that. And it's just like they're seeing it and they're like, oh my God. So what was that like for you?
I mean, the event
I'm-
itself was great. Yeah.
Yeah, I know what Cameron's gonna say. He's like, it's all par for the course. Like it's just you just do it and move on. But you went through a lot.
Yeah. I think when you're at the point where you can do something generally speaking, it, at least in terms of my experience, it doesn't seem that significant when you're already doing it.
Yeah.
Like if I went back years ago, I would think it was significant, but it's like, especially when you know where you're going to, it's like, well, that just has to happen, you know, in the course
Yeah.
of things. Right. So, but yeah, it was really cool. And I mean, I think it'd be better if somebody were to tell it in terms of what they experienced, because that way it would come across better. But, you know, there was a lot of challenging things that came up, like having all those people at the house and having, you know, we're on a ranch essentially where there's lots of things that are dangerous, like ATVs and guns and things like that. And so my whole focus the whole time was on everybody else. Like I had to be at a point within myself where I can just focus on everybody and not
Shit. Here's what happens
at
when
that
you're not
level of
focused on
responsibility. You
yourself.
can't be.
It cut out.
Oh, was it glitching out? Okay.
Yeah. But it's like you have to be able to focus on everybody else and not just.
Yeah, when
be
you're at
focused.
that level of responsibility, you have to. You can't be focused on yourself, right? Only, right? I mean,
like what is it?
there's nothing
look
for me
like
to
be
focus on for
focused
myself.
yourself? Yeah.
Well, like when we're shooting guns, if I'm like, no, I want to also have fun and shoot the guns and stuff. I'm like, then how am I gonna do it in a way where it's like, who's gonna be the one managing the whole situation? Like, think about it when you go to a gun range. Is the guy who's watching everybody, the range master or whatever, like, I just want to shoot some guns today. Like, no, they have to be focused on everybody else, like making sure no one's doing anything stupid or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So things like that, you know, like having to constantly like, where are the keys for the ATVs? I got to get them out. So because if we lose them, then no one can fucking drive them, you know, things like that. And there was some significant things that happened. I don't really want to go into it on the podcast, but there were things that happened that I know most people would have collapsed. Like they would not have been able to even handle that thing. But probably from most people's perspective, they didn't even notice that anything had happened.
Agreed.
From who Katie and I were in terms of what we were doing and so forth, and what we were supporting in terms of managing, managing, right? So that just goes to show the level of stability within myself that I've developed. And I mean, I know I still have a ways to go. Like I know that. I don't need to talk about what those ways are because that's for me, right? It's like I saw this really cool interview with Trump one time, and the woman somebody was asking him like, well, what are your weaknesses? And you know, everyone has weaknesses. He's like, yeah, I mean, everyone has weaknesses, of course. And she was like, well, what are your weaknesses? And he was like, why would I tell you or anyone my weaknesses? Like, why would I do that?
Yeah.
Like, but people like to complain about their weaknesses, go into victim mode and so forth. So the point is, there's a point where it's not about projecting being perfect and everything you do is unquestionable and infallible. Realizing that, yes, you have things to do and so forth. Because people will try to use that against you. They'll try to be like, oh, you just think you're perfect and you just want to tell everybody what to do because it's like, no, if you were here actually participating, you wouldn't see that. That's just because you're on the outside and you don't want to be equal to anybody else and take the responsibility that you want to project onto people like us who are taking on leadership roles because it's a vacuum. You have to, they're there, right? If we don't do it, no one will do it. But the way in which we're doing it is to support others to step up too. So the whole point of that, I'll just be very explicit. The whole point of that event, from my perspective, was to support every person there to go home and start a clubhouse. Is everyone in a position right away to immediately do that? No, not necessarily. They could, but they might have to walk through some things. That's okay. But it was to support them with the points that they needed to move through and challenge within themselves to be able to do that. Let's just put it that way. It might take somebody who's there an entire year or so before they can take that responsibility on. It might, just in terms of their own process. I can't say. But the point was to support people to shift to that point, because if it doesn't go to that, then it can't work. It can't just be only there's events at our place and people come to that. We can't host 1 million people. You know what I mean? That's not possible, right? So the point isn't for us to be the leaders for 1 million people. It's to support a few who then create their own communities. And then those people create their own communities. And it's like somebody might say, well, how can you have 100 clubhouses in one city? And it's like, we were driving around this town of 2,000 people. And it's like, there's how many freaking churches?
Yeah.
Like 10, I don't even know. You know what I mean?
It's like, how many people are in that town? In Jefferson?
Yeah. How
2,000,
many, like when
yeah.
you drive around, how many fucking auto mechanic shops are there? How many restaurants are there?
Hmm.
You don't have, I mean, think about it. If your clubhouse had 100 people in it, which, I mean, can you handle more than 100 people in one clubhouse? Like just in like an office building or something? That's not going to happen. So, okay. If you had 100 people and there was 100 clubhouses, how many people is that? Come on, guys.
10,000.
10,000, right? So even 100 people with 100 clubhouses, here, 100 clubhouses with 100 people, it's only 10,000 people. So even in a small town of like 50,000 people, that's only 20%.
Yeah.
So what about a town of like, what about a city like Houston of 8 million people? You can literally have a fucking clubhouse on every corner. You see, it's not, so this, people, they project and they're like, well, I have to get millions of people and then that'll be saturated or something. It's like, just do 10, you know, and support those people. And then, for example, someone in that particular area could be like, hey, we're going to do like the annual Houston or New York or whatever self-perfected event where it's like, there's 100,000 people in a stadium or something. Because all the little clubhouses and people from their surrounding areas came or something like, or 10,000 people or whatever it is, right? Mm-hmm. So the idea that it can't grow beyond just this thing, it's like you have to start thinking about how it can actually grow. That's like Mitch was talking about with the network and so forth, right? Yeah. So I know you have to go soon, Mitch, but I guess my point was the event was really cool and we had a lot of fun. I mean, that was the basic point. Like we played lots of games, just like we took the stuff we did in Orlando, which we then did at your place in Minneapolis. We took it to another level where we had like 30, 40 people. One of my favorite moments was being around that campfire in the woods, which is like, I can't tell you guys the process I went through to create that little thing out there by myself. I'm not saying it was like a huge thing. It was just, it took time. And I was kind of like, why am I doing this? It's not even enough space for everybody. I don't have enough chairs. Like, what's the point, you know? But we made it work. And we probably had 30 or 40 people out there. Wow. Yeah. Like in the middle, you know, like really late at night where the campfire was really cold and there's like coyotes howling and everything. And, you know, and I was like, what's something that you would do? I think somebody made a joke, like somebody said something, they made a joke about something about the Bohemian Grove or something like that. And I picked up on it and I was like, you know, they would do some weird sacrifice stuff or whatever. And I was like, it'd be funny if we all howled like coyotes. That would be like a weird, do you know what I mean? Like a Bohemian Grove thing that they would do. It'd be like weird, right? Like a, you know what I mean?
Ritual, yeah.
Yeah, something like that. So I brought it up to her, but I was like, what if, because I knew some people were scared of the coyotes. So it's like just facing it, confronting it, right? So I was like, you know, what if we just had it? What if we all started howling like coyotes? And I could see there was not anyone was going to just immediately do it. So I asked Max. I was like, Max, how does a coyote sound? And he was like, ooh, you know. Yeah. And I asked Seneca, and she did it. And then I asked, like, I think Kiara and Mackenzie, and they did it. And then I asked Ceylin, and she did it. Then I said, what if we all just did it? And then everyone started doing it for like, a minute or two, like solid. You know what I mean? Just continue going and going beyond what I thought they would do, right? And then, you know, it was fun. And we had that huge fire like blazing, you know, listening to Bernard audios. We were like dancing like sad. I was playing Firestarter by Prodigy, you know. It was just fun, you know, like a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. So that's really the point. That's a true mastermind. Like I don't think there's been a mastermind like that before.
Yeah.
I mean, well, I don't think. I know. Like, think of all the examples they give of a mastermind. It was like these 5 guys who were like industry leaders or something. You know what I mean? And they're not even getting that level at the Bohemian Grove or any of these things.
Yeah.
Because those people are not really united in purpose. They're united in fear. That's it. You know?
That's a good point.
So I know, Mitch, you got to go. Do you guys want to wrap it up for this episode?
I
was kind of hoping Asim would keep talking about.
Oh, okay, cool. Things. I didn't know if what was our plan, but Mitch has got to go, right?
Mitch, what are you saying, Doug?
Yeah.
5 minutes?
I got to hop off in a minute here. Okay. What's Asim going to talk about?
Any final thoughts, Mitch, before you go?
I mean, if you made it this far in the podcast, like, one, why are you listening to the podcast? You know, is it just for entertainment, or is it because you want to use this as inspiration to go out and make shit happen? Then 2, is how great will it be when this type of conversation and this type of thing is like commonplace? where this is like every day, every week, people are talking about this kind of thing and making this level of impact, right? Because we're, depending how fast we can move, within a year or two. I mean, you saw just in the past year how much we changed. Like it's exponential now, and so you should really consider joining in or taking it even more seriously, because that's, what else are you living for?
Close me, bro.
But don't. Here's the last point. Don't go so big that you miss your next step, right? Because if you're dreaming too big, you're like, I want to be a billionaire and do this, or I want to become a regional distributor of TechnoTutor or whatever. It's like, no, just focus on your next step and then the one after that, right? And then so every week you're moving forward. So by the time of the next podcast, you could look back and say, hey, okay, last Tuesday I was here, now I'm here, right? And then you keep doing that. That's what we've all done, right? That's how all of us got married, built our business. Right now I have a team building our business for us. Like that's the answer, is just every week being consistent. Cool. All right, I gotta sign off. But
those are really good closing thoughts, dude.
Closing.
See you later, Mitch.
Always closing.
See you, Mitch.
Bye.
Asif.
So, yeah, I got the go ahead.
Nice.
Yeah, so basically like a quick life update. So to go to Jefferson, Texas, is a small little city. Me, Kian, and Maylat, we flew down to Austin, Texas. We spent 3 days there. We paid for some service for somebody to drive. So we drove ourselves to the Ottawa airport in Canada. We drove ourselves there, and we met somebody who took the keys to our car and drove it to Austin. And it took them 3 or 4 days. So we flew to Austin. They took the keys from us when we were departing, and he started driving our car, and he's sending us pictures under these nice fall trees. And, I'm in Kentucky or whatever the fuck he was, Illinois or whatever. So he's coming down there. I don't know if that's the right path, but I think he's in Michigan.
Not at all.
I'm in California. Why are you in California?
What the fuck are you in California?
But no, he took the right path. He sent us the right pictures of states or whatever. So when we got to Austin, he met up with us, and he actually gave us our keys. And in the back of our car, why did we want our car? Well, yeah, we just got a new car. And in the car is basically me and Maylat's stuff. I guess my and Maylat's stuff. And it was all loaded in that trunk, and we had like 2 suitcases with us. So basically from there, we grabbed the car from him. Me, Kian, Maylat, we drive to Jefferson, have a mind-boggling event, and that was unreal. Even the B&Bs there were so cool, so nice, right? They're like so awesome. Yeah. And the breakfast there is unreal. Shout out the Carriage House. Right?
BW.
If BW listens to this, right? If the ladies listen to this, yeah. Shout out the Carriage House. They're absolutely amazing. They had unreal breakfasts. The lady kept saying, I only make for you guys what I would eat myself. I'm like, that's a good way of doing it.
Yeah.
I always like giving you apple juice, orange juice, cranberry, tea, coffee. They have like 2 courses. So it'll give you like a peach cobbler, like in a crepe. And then the other one would be like an enchilada or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, no, like a breakfast enchilada.
I'll tell you how cool these people are. Like, because I know the guy who owns it, right? And he was telling me about how they have they do like s'mores every night. They do a fire outside and they do s'mores every night.
Yes.
Yeah? Like every night, right? And he was like, yeah, you should bring the kids by. So we go over one night just with the kids, like, and have s'mores outside of their fire, and while we're there, his wife Jessie, she's like sending out like appetizers that they were making for one of their like dinners. And she's like, or no, she was like, BW came, I was like, she wants you in the kitchen. So I come in there and she's like, here, she gives me a plate of like these like little, it was like bacon wrapped something or other, I forget, shrimp or something like that. And then like sitting and like, like try it out. Is it good? Like, do you like it? And I'm like, hell yeah, this is great, man. They're just like feeding us, like randomly, So they're really cool.
Awesome. They were super cool. They're really accommodating, like really flexible, awesome people. And that whole town was just so welcoming, so charming. So then Kian ended up flying back Wednesday, no hitch in his trip to Canada.
Oh,
that's cool.
Unlike
Unlike some
A lot of
other
people,
folks.
right?
Yeah.
People went through it, right? So yeah, he gets back to Canada. Me and Maylat, we started driving. Took it over a couple days. Like Drake drove from Florida to Jefferson in one day, like 14 hours. I'm like, I'm not doing that, man. We wanted to like sleep a night, look around, a little bit.
That's how we do it.
Yeah.
We'd probably take 2 days.
Exactly, right. And take your time with the kids and stuff like that, and you stop and all that. So yeah, right now the different background is we're posted up in Florida now. So sunny weather, nice weather. It was kind of crazy because we didn't even see the house in person, right? We did like a Zoom call, and then I sent them like a lot of money because they're like, you're Canadian, so we don't want just 2 months of rent. We want like 4, like 5 months of rent. I'm like,
Damn.
Okay. If that'll get us a place, because out of all the places I was looking at, I'm like, this is the only one I fucking like.
Yeah.
Like, I'll go balls to the wall for it.
And how is it? Like, is it a good house?
And we came, and it's
Dude,
perfect.
So you've been there, Drake?
I went and visited them, and like as soon as we walked in, we were like, "Fuck, this place is amazing!"
Like Drake's going like this, right? He's like looking up. It's like
it's big,
really
man.
fucking tall.
That's good. So it's got like really tall ceilings and
They've
stuff.
got tall ceilings, bro. When you come over, it's gonna be fucking amazing. like I their kitchen is gorgeous. You know I like the kitchen. It's fucking gorgeous, bro. It's like,
you think you
it's
can make some
insane.
biscuits in there? Or?
Well, Christine can. she's got the recipe.
Yeah,
there.
Christine just made. So we went over to Drake's house the other day, and Christine prepared all the food. Drake is mentoring her, right? And dude, like splendid. Like I got to try Drake's biscuits in Houston,
Yeah.
and I got to try Drake's biscuits made by Christine. A1.
Take it to another level. Yeah.
Awesome.
Oh yeah. She's fucking amazing.
Cool.
So you can have Christine's biscuits in there, but like,
Nice.
yeah, their
I'm
places.
still gonna call them Drake's biscuits. But
Exactly.
sorry, Christine.
Yeah, no, it was funny because I said they brought cookies. They brought a bunch of food over. It was super sweet when they came over. And Christine was like, yeah, these are Drake's cookies. And I was like, she's like, but I baked them. I'm like, okay, so it's like Drake's, like it's called Drake's cookies, right? It's kind of like if you said, this is Dunkin' Donuts cookies or whatever. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's obviously Dunkin' is not making the donuts.
Yeah.
Right. No, but you're gonna love their place when you guys come. Yeah.
And what's
Yeah,
the
so
view
it-
like? Do you have a view? What do you have a view of? Any good view or?
I mean, there's palm trees in our garden. Like,
Yeah,
Actually,
cool.
okay,
So it's kind of like
actually-
that Florida look and everything.
yeah.
I will say, like out the front of their place, there's like a kind
Crack
of
house.
a drive up. There's a crack house. No, but there's kind
A
of a,
homeless encampment.
Right. and if you look out their front window from the upstairs, like you can see the sun, well, not the sun, the moon rising, right? And it's just like when the moon's full, it's fucking gorgeous views from their front.
That's
window.
awesome.
That's
Yeah.
true. That is true. Yeah. Yeah. So it's just really cool being here with Drake, Christine, Alan, and growing the community here.
Yeah.
But yeah, just coming here, somebody asked me, like, so when you got there, like what problems did you start seeing and all that? I'm like, it worked out really
Why would
well.
you see problems? Why would you?
Like they're saying, like, like you got there and you found out like the house is actually kind of
Oh, okay. Yeah.
right. But no, we paid to get it clean. We got there, we're like, I feel bad. Like it definitely felt lived in. So we're like, okay, let's pay to get it cleaned. Right. So we just
That's
paid
cool.
somebody, they came, they cleaned the whole house, took them a couple hours, 2 people. And we're like,
Yeah.
oh, this feels, yeah, okay. The floor feels nice. Like everything feels good. So yeah, it's been great. Kind of, settling down here and getting our bearings and all that stuff. The cool part, the culmination to the event, the last day that we were there, it was Wednesday, and we left around midday. And I didn't get to see you, Cam, because I know you went to like drop something to the car or grab something for the car. But we were at that bistro and we are kind of saying goodbye to everybody. Like Katie and Maya was there, and Drake was there, and Christine was there. And for those of you who don't know, Maylat's pregnant. That was something that was nice.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
I have to keep pretending like I don't know. Congratulations.
You did. You don't have to do that anymore, no, Cameron.
Hey,
Um,
fuck! I don't have to like try not to tell everybody now.
Yeah, exactly. Which I'm quite impressed with you, man. That's a point that you transcended. You did not.
No,
drop
it's
it.
easy for me to keep secrets about other people.
Yeah, right. That makes sense. That makes sense. But then you tell it to Avery, and usually he doesn't keep his secret. He totally kept it. You did a great
Yeah.
job. right?
There was a few times where I had to like, okay. Did I already tell
me
that
too.
story?
Yeah.
Did I already tell that one about when we were in Minneapolis for the wedding, Mitch's wedding? And like we were sitting around, it was like Katie. Now I can explain the. Oh, because
I remember.
I obviously haven't told it yet, but we were sitting around. We were talking with Zoe, Katie was talking with Zoe, and I was telling her like you'll get all this support, when you have kids and everything. I was like, you'll get support from Katie and Maylat, and then I was like, and Miguel and just all the women, like all of them, I'm like, oh yeah, no one knows yet. So,
yeah. So
it was funny. All the women were like, oh yeah, we already knew. Like they're like, we could tell. I'm like, how the hell?
It's so funny because all the ladies were coming up to me and like, like being a father. And I'm like, yeah, we're all gonna be fathers one day. And so the cool part was this finale, because you have to wait a certain amount of time to get genetic testing. Genetic testing is only something I learned about actually from you guys, from Katie, going through the process and being like, yeah, because there's a high miscarriage rate in the first 3 months. So generally speaking, you would not share that you're pregnant in the first 3 months, just so that you kind of get past that benchmark. And the second part being the genetic testing, finding out if there's going to be any significant genetic defect. And you also find, I didn't know this, but you also find out the sex of the baby then. I didn't even know that, right? So it was like
crazy because
it's a genetic, shut up.
I thought you couldn't determine that, but okay.
I thought the baby had to tell you what its gender was.
Yeah, when it's 4 or 5 years old.
Right.
When it's been in public school and indoctrinated.
I thought you were going to make a joke about like being like sex being obviously genetic. So of course you would figure it out. But that's why I said shut up, but my bad. That was a good joke. So we're kind of saying goodbye, and like I think I like hugged somebody, and Katie was there, like we're gonna say bye. She's like, did you get the test results? Or somebody said like, did you get the test results back for the baby? I'm like, no, I haven't. I'm like, Mayla, because she was in the car, like right, like that was a cool restaurant.
She was sitting right next to you, so you had to yell at her like you do.
Yeah, I was like, Mayla. But it was a cool restaurant. The tables were like inside and then kind of like half outside.
Oh, you're talking about the Austin Bistro?
Yeah.
Was it that one? Yeah. So the car was like right there. I was like, Mayla, did you check for the results? She's like, I already checked like a couple hours ago. It's not there. I'm like, check again. She's like, yeah, I will. And literally, she's like, pulls it up. I go to the bathroom, come out. She's like, ask if I got the test results. I'm like, oh shit! Like everybody's standing around, and I'm like, what's everybody standing around for? They say, I got the test results. She's like, we're waiting for you to come back. She's like, it's a boy. And I was like, oh, damn. There was like this moment of like, oh, we were talking about it in the car ride. I was like, oh, now that little lemon, who's now the size of an apple, it's like a boy. It's like real, And that was like, wow. So I'm gonna be like responsible for raising a man.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing like the process with Max, and him understanding all these points. And you guys are also having another boy. It's like really, really crazy. So it was just like the final moment right before we left. We got the test results back. Baby's crazy. Super healthy, like ultra low risk, everything, like as low as it could be. And it's a boy. And I was like, and then Katie's like, yes, like she got fucking jacked up. She's like, I knew it. It was the cutest. It was the most like energetic I've seen her the whole event. It was so funny. So we're driving back. We're driving Joel to the airport because it was on our way, because he was going to Shreveport. Joel was there. Cam, you look confused. No. Okay. So we're driving Joel to the airport. So like we're like, okay, yeah, cool. We'll give you a ride. It was so funny. He's like, that's amazing. Like, congratulations, guys. He's like, you should name your kid. You should name your kid Arcus. And I'm like, oh, that's a cool name. Like, do you know what it means? He's like, no, I did, but I kind of forgot. But it's a cool name. Yeah. I'm like, but Joel, like, why would you tell us to name the baby that? If
you like that name? Yeah.
Right. And then it was so funny because we started talking like, yeah, I wonder what it means. It could be blah, blah, blah. He's like, oh, hey, by the way, like, don't take that name. Like, I don't want that name. It was so funny, man. It was hilarious. I was like,
are you guys taking that name or no?
No, I'm not going
to. Oh, okay. But like before you told me that, I thought you actually were taking that name, but you were just like,
oh, yeah, exactly. I was telling that because Joel's like, hey, by the way, like, don't take that name. I want the name. And I always think about that because I think I was saying like, why do people suggest baby names that they love? And if they're gonna have kids and they really love, hey, you should name your baby. It's like, no, you want that name for your kid,
Yeah.
right? It's so funny. And so yeah, the other really cool part is we got here and Melat's starting to like look around for midwives and all that stuff. And so it was last week, I think. Yeah, last week was the first week that we were here, fully. And yeah, she went to go meet a midwife, and she was really cool and all that stuff. And she's like, "Do you want a sonogram? You want your first sonogram, right?" She's like, "Do you want to hear the heartbeat?"
Yeah.
Right? And she's like, "Oh, or do you want your husband around?" And she's like, "But you can record it." And Melat made the decision that I would have wanted. I'm like, "Yeah, just record it.
Just
That's
do
cool."
it. Yeah.
Exactly, just do it. So that was crazy. It was like she put on her belly and she's like recording the heartbeat, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, there's actually like a baby in there." Like,
Yeah.
wow. Like,
And
really
you know what's going to be making it even more real when you get the ultrasound, because that was the first point, like you said, the sonogram,
True.
when I was like, oh, like it felt exactly like you did. It was like, oh man.
really fast
And then-
heartbeat.
And then when you get the
150,
ultrasound later, where you can actually see it
see
in
it.
there, you're like, holy shit, it's
Yeah.
really cool.
that's true.
It's
I
like
didn't even-
I know what it's like from your perspective, like all those little steps.
right.
That's like
And you're,
really
and
cool.
you're like going through it again. Like when we got to your place, we saw the ultrasound on the fridge.
You saw how it was like had an arrow that said boy.
Yeah, just
Pointing
pointing
at
at the
the
penis.
penis.
Yeah. It's so funny.
Yeah.
But
My son's first dick pic.
first of many.
First.
Yeah. First and
Perhaps
last.
that's up to him.
hopefully.
It's his choice. It's his life. Hey.
Wow. Amazing father. Wow. But yeah, it's just really cool because I never really considered. I'm like, you don't really need to get an ultrasound. Like, if you know the birth of the baby, right? It's like just to find the birth stuff you figure out. But yeah, I'm not considering the fact that every time you see an entirely new dimension of it, it's like it impacts me. It impacts, it impacts you. And so it's been pretty wild.
Also, they can count
exciting.
like the fingers and the spine and all this stuff. They can check
Okay.
everything. Yeah.
They can see all
I think
that.
it's
That's
called an
really-
anatomy scan or something they do.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's really awesome. So yeah, so for anybody wondering, she's like, I don't know, 13 or 14 weeks along. And yeah, we're gonna be 25 with a kid.
That's great. That's so much better than waiting till you're 30.
It's really cool. It's really exciting. I never thought I would do this in my entire life. Seriously. That was like a point. And then I'm like, okay, yeah, I could have kids, but I'm thinking like, 30, 35. So it's cool. It's cool to really push things forward. And Karen, you didn't freaking tell me, man. Like you guys picked a name.
I didn't.
You guys
saying
you
it.
didn't tell me.
I've been saying it all the time.
Definitely did.
I say it all the time.
so
I don't like
judged.
to announce things. I just do it.
That was in our top 2 names.
Really?
So now
That's
we're
so random.
and then we crossed it off, and that was our like top name, and then didn't hear any word from you guys about what your name was.
You were actually considering Caius?
Yes.
That's crazy.
I'm
Such a
kidding.
random name. Like I would have never
I'm
come up with that
kidding.
name.
I'm just kidding.
I'm like, there's no way. You just want me to say it.
No, I didn't. No, I didn't care. Just wanted to mess with
Now,
you a
Katie
little bit.
picked that name. I like it. It took a while for me for it to grow on me to really.
Well, actually, sincerely, one of the names I was considering was Kai.
Hmm.
Kai, yeah. But
Obviously, that could be a nickname.
What does it mean? Tell the people.
She told me. I forgot.
Drake, you don't
Happy.
say it, dude. No-
What? Sorry,
Happy?
you said my name. You said my name. I was like, yeah, I was not gonna say
You said my
it.
name, that's it. But yeah, that's cool. It's really awesome. So I feel like that probably makes it more real as well. Okay, got a little name. It's funny because Melat has this app, and it's like telling you like, hey, your baby is the size of an apple seed. And then like, hey, now it's the size of a lime. Now the size of a lemon. Now it's the size of an apple. Now it's the size of. So it's been interesting, like watching that. I'm like, oh, really? And she starting to finally show a little bit, like over the last little bit of time. She's like, am I showing? And then I can't tell if she wants me to say that she's showing or not say that she's showing, because then she feels fat,
I know. Oh.
I'm like, no, you're not showing. She's like, what? I'm not showing? Like, what if it's not right?
Isn't it actually great having a relationship based on principles? We don't have to worry about bullshit like that.
Yeah, it's real. Oh my God.
You could just be like, actually, yeah, don't wear that dress. It doesn't look good on you. And they're like, oh, okay, cool. Which one should I wear? You know? It's
Yeah,
like,
exactly. You're like, thanks for looking out for me.
and then you're actually
Yeah.
working together on stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome. So, anyways, that's
Yeah.
that's the
Because
life
if they were like, oh, I look fat, and I'd be like, you need to go put that in your fucking techno tutor right now. You know what I mean? Like, oh, how you think I look fat? I'd be like, I think you need to fucking do your TT. That's what I think.
Yeah, stop worrying about it. Yeah, that's a good.
You need
Point.
to address your fucking trauma.
I think so. Yeah, I just wanted to add one thing about Asif moving down to Florida. It's been fucking amazing because you were talking about like inspiring everyone there to at the Texas event to go and build a clubhouse. Well, we've been having like our own meetings, like a couple of them before the Texas event, right? But then with Asif here now, it's like it adds another dimension to the clubhouse, and he's got a completely different mindset than either myself or Alan or Christine, and it's fucking amazing. It's so cool because now we're getting really moving forward with building what we have here and actually going out and expanding and growing. And we have like this we have a purpose, we have a strategy, we have a drive. It's like it's all there now. It's like, oh, it's really clear. That's really what it is. It's really clear now. And
it's actually really fun, like working with you guys, because one thing that became super apparent when we had that meeting on Saturday and we were going over like, okay, this is this, okay, then this is this, okay, and this is what we have to do to build this, right? It's like right away you guys are like, okay, cool, like what do we have to do? I'm like, okay, start doing this, blah blah. And we're like, okay, I don't know what should we, and you're like, okay, we'll add this, and both of you are like really ready and willing to just walk through whatever you got to walk through. Right. And we're just like, hey, start going to events. Drake's at an event the next day. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, fuck yes. That's what we need. Right. And that's what everyone needs. So it's actually been really cool. And I think the funniest part, I don't know if you considered this much, but me, for those of you, me, Drake, and Alan, we all have very similar programming. We all came from like a very intellectual background and we like to think about things instead of doing them and all this stuff. So it's just a really cool point of transcendence, like knowing where I've come from, and then working with a group of guys who, like, let's face it, we're never going to be successful, and really just watching all of us just already like leveling up and pushing ourselves like on a new level. It's a lot of fun, and you can see where it's going already, right?
Yeah,
like you can really see where it's going.
Yeah, and man, Cam, it's going to be super exciting when we share what we're working on, because it's fucking next level. It's really like we brainstormed a little bit and we realized so many points within. What we realized was what Avery's been saying the whole time, right? That you can build your business and have fun.
Yeah.
And it's so much fucking fun, man. Like it's gonna be fucking mind blowing when you see what we're doing. But,
yeah, Drake, like he came back from implementing what we were talking about, and then he starts leaving me voice clips, and he's fucking jacked up. I'm like, dude, you get me jacked up, man. I was gonna go to sleep, but damn. So it's really
exciting.
Cool.
It's
That's
really
awesome.
is. Yeah.
Anything else?
Well, I don't know. Everybody who's listening needs to consider that what we're doing can't just stay with us. We're sharing all of this because it's what everybody wants, but it's the responsibility that everyone has to take on. And like you were saying, that point of, maybe we could talk about this next episode, is like, how do you make life fun again? Because that was one of the things we noticed. And I'll end it with this point, was like
MLF.
Right? The freedom to enjoy life, right?
Bang. Bang.
And well, I'll just add this one quick point, then we can wrap it up. But when we were here and everyone was playing, same thing we did with Mitch and Jesse, same thing we did in Florida. Nobody was drinking, right? And because we were all together in a big group, like at our house, for example, nobody's drinking, nobody's doing drugs, we're all committed to principles. We started all playing games, and Avery made this point. He's like, oh, it's games that children would play, right? Because our kids, all the kids were playing.
Yeah.
Right. Like now every night the kids are like wanting to play those games, right?
Chucky.
And
Yeah, so he's like,
we play,
can we play Chucky?
right? They wanted to play the Among Us game we were playing, right?
Yeah.
And Max, he changes it up every time. Like the other night it was bats and mosquitoes.
Oh,
And
that's
then
smart.
and then it was owls and mice. And there was another one, I forget what it was, but it's like, you know what I mean? It's like the
Yeah, yeah.
animals and then the prey, right?
Instead
but
of
anyways,
the villagers and the killer.
Exactly. So,
Yeah.
but the point is like just running around and playing and having fun, becoming like children again, right? And that's really the key to all of this. Is part of it is you have to, as an adult, let go of a lot of things in order to do that. But when you get around each other and you have the same principles, man. So the point is not to keep it as I have to go to this event to get it. And that was the thing I think everybody missed in Gin, right? Even at the time before we really had developed our group, because I was running Gin Clubhouse meetings and so forth, or chapter meetings and so forth for like several years, right? In Houston. But going to the events, like thinking that, oh, you have to go to the event and get something and then go back to your life, or go to the chapter meeting once a month and then go back. And it's like, how do you create that all the time? And that's what the Clubhouse is really about in the community and the network. See, because you guys are noticing, and now that y'all are near each other physically, how you can synergize and everything, right? So yeah, I don't know what else there is to say.
Yeah,
I'll-
I think that's the main point to take. Like, I just want to bolster that point real quick. It's like, yes, all of us are committed to taking what we experience at the event and creating that in our local areas. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Really cool.
And
Yeah.
just that point of like having fun while doing it. It's like taking a stand can be fun. Yes, it's going to be challenging for sure. There's going to be points within yourself that you're going to be like, fuck, what do I do? Or resisting whatever. But like, it can actually be a lot of fun to do this. And so you don't have to make it this like, I'm taking a stand, like fucking, whatever people think about that, right?
No, it's like you have a party, and then at the party, you're kind of inserting points and making suggestions, and then you find people, and then you keep going further and further and further with it. It doesn't have to be that day. You're like suddenly fucking, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that's part of it. Is when you create those environments, right?
Really good point.
So
Cool. So welcome back to the podcast. We're back. We're getting saucier. We're getting juicier. Cameron's got antlers.
Cue the intro.
man, you got me. I was gonna say it. You did it. You got me. Tune in.
Cool. Yeah, like, subscribe, comment,
And
say-
share.
If you guys want us to do another podcast, we have such low self-esteem that if you don't go into comments, say we're so happy you're back, we're not going to do any more podcasts. So please go in the comments, tell us how grateful you are for that was back, or else we're not doing any more podcasts. Yeah, share and come to the self-perfected hangouts. Those are a lot of fun. And
if you're in Orlando, come to the hangout. Find us on Meetup.
oh, like the
For the
clubhouse,
clubhouse.
For sure.
He meant the Friday one.
Oh, you meant that. No, I
Yeah, the
meant
global-
fucking
the
come in
global
person.
hangout, yeah.
If you're listening to this now,
that too.
come in
Yeah.
person. Yeah,
Exactly.
it's a great time. It really is.
Other than that, have a great fucking week. Have a great fucking life, year.
See you next year, I guess.
No, we'll have more before that.
Yeah.
All right. Peace.
Bye.